This is Anna Meyerhoff. I'm a bilingual trainer with the Northeast Center based in Cooperstown, New York. This presentation is about using iClicker audience response systems to evaluate safety training with immigrant dairy workers. The clicker trials were done on a total of 9 dairy farms with over 100 Spanish-speaking workers. The sessions were delivered to a mix of brand new, somewhat experienced, and then very experienced workers, and some had been through a safety training session before and others had not. Usually, safety training on animal handling, chemical safety, and skid steer is delivered as about an hour-long session. And for the clicker trials, we added 11 pre and post questions related to the training content, as well as a couple of background questions before the session, and then a couple of feedback questions after. We wanted to find out whether using clickers works with this group, whether the training sessions were effective at increasing knowledge, and also learn about how workers get their safety information. In doing this trial, we learned several things. The big lesson is workers like using the clickers. They think they're cool and they're a lot of fun to use. The workers did not have issues using them overall. There were a few folks who had trouble with the technology, but most people were able to use the system very easily. They prefer them over the idea of using their mobile devices for polling and definitely prefer them over a paper evaluation. Using the clickers led to increased interaction and feedback during the sessions, and in future trainings, the clicker system could be used to do review questions and ensure everyone understands the training content. In doing the trial, we saw an increase in scores between the pretest and the post-test, and we also saw an increase in length of session time. Usually a safety training is about an hour long, and with the clicker trials, we were only able to use them on farms that could give us longer. These workers have come off a 12-hour shift and they're tired, and doing this training is going to take longer, so that's a consideration. We found that the safety training content had to be condensed in order to fit everything in. On average, the training was about 45 minutes, and using the clickers added between 20 and 30 minutes. So that is a long time, and it's not going to be easy for some farms to do that. There were issues with larger groups being a challenge, just having one person there handing out the clickers, making sure everyone could use them. And if there was an issue with the technology, it was, again, a factor that made things take longer. We also saw some issues with certain questions either being too easy or too difficult for workers, or questions that had potentially multiple answers that could be correct. This chart shows the results of 3 questions that we asked before the training session. How do you learn about animal handling on the farm, chemical safety, and skid steer safety? So as you can see, over half of workers said that they learn from coworkers, family members, or their own experiences rather than from training sessions or from their supervisor. And unfortunately, a few folks said that they had learned nothing about safety on the farm. Again, the results are based on what people are telling us using the clickers for multiple choice questions where a few options could be considered correct. The workers are coming in tired off of a 12-hour shift. The clickers were fun for them to use, but it's still hard to get people to focus for over an hour. And some of the workers were brand new and had never done training, but others may have had previous knowledge on the safety topics that were covered. It's also interesting that workers learn more from coworkers, family, or their own experience rather than from training, which is problematic because it could lead to some huge safety knowledge gaps. So in the future, using clickers for immigrant dairy worker surveying looks really promising. It's something to be considered for future trainings just as a way to review the content and get information about the audience.